Welcome to the Business Growth Spotlight, where we talk with business leaders from all over the world who share their insights and expertise so we can all grow together. If you're new to the Business Growth Spotlight podcast, welcome. We're so excited to have you here with us. I'm your host, Heidi Schalk, the co-founder of HLH Growth Solutions. We are your number one visibility strategy company, and we help businesses scale their revenue by being seen as the authority and expert in their space versus just another product or service. Stick around to the end because we have a free gift for you by being here with us. But without further ado, I'm really excited to be talking with my guest today. His name is Anthony Garcia with Purepost. Welcome, Anthony, to the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
I appreciate your time. So, Anthony, can you share with us, kick us off with telling us a little bit about who you are, your company, and your role within it?
Absolutely. My story is important to the journey, as most founders are. I'm an Army combat veteran. I went into the military in 1999 from San Antonio, Texas. I got picked up to be a medical evacuation officer, which means that I would be flying Black Hawk helicopters and also leading service members in the medical evacuation of people off the battlefield, to put it plain. I ended up getting stationed in Korea for my first tour, which was nice. I did 2 years there, and then I went directly to Iraq in 2003. And a little bit about what we've done or what we did while we were over there. And I'll talk about my last tour, which was all of 2005. We medically evacuated about 6,400 patients in 11 months and flew over 5,000 combat missions. So our job was to pick up the wounded men and women off the battlefield. People would get blown up, shot, you name it. We saw it. It could be 3 a.m. or 3 p.m, and quite often it was in the evening or the early morning. We'd be lucky if we would have a grid coordinate and a call sign, and then we would take off in about 5 minutes, go pick up that wounded personnel, or even many times it was also Iraqi civilians and even our enemy, and we'd take them to higher echelon of care. So that is essentially in a snapshot who I am, because that is still who I am in many regards. I've always believed in service. I've obviously walked away with a healthy amount of PTSD from that experience. I'm a 100% disabled veteran. Fortunately, somehow I ended up getting into Cornell Business School when I left the military. I had no idea what it meant to go to an Ivy League school, because when you're in the military, you're basically doing the job that you're supposed to do in your career path throughout the military, which is also quite unique. You know generally what you're going to be doing from year to year. Nobody ever tells you what to do, which is kind of counter to some of the stereotypes, because people actually get fired quite fast in the military because it's life and death. But when I got out of the military, I had no idea what I was going to do. My father wrote me this nice resume that I used to apply to business school, got into business school, and then that was when my eyes really quite opened up to my disability, because I really don't remember much from those 2 years because I was in a bit of a fog. But what I did do quite productively for my friends I was a resume writer. I just started writing resumes for all my friends and friends of friends who were coming out of the military, because the first 2 weeks of business school is basically a finishing school. How do you carry yourself in an interview? What do you wear? How to network, how to write a resume, your 30-second elevator pitch. So I spent a lot of time doing that through business school. I got a internship doing M&A strategy work at Sikorsky Aerospace Services in 2008. They gave me a full-time offer. It wasn't what I wanted to do, and I turned that down, and then I slipped into a severe depression. I was suicidal for my last year in business school. Fortunately, I was able to get over that hump, and with that, I discovered that I wanted to pursue a career as an entrepreneur helping military families and veterans. So I started my first business in 2011, which was a mobile application. For some reason, we built a iOS mobile app out the gate, which was insane. I would never do that again. I would have built a web app first, but we focused it on the Monterey, the professionals and the family members in the military in Monterey, California. There's about 6,000 of those of that demographic. We were able to capture 50%, but at the time, it was very difficult to convince venture capital or investors that they want to invest in that market because people just weren't educated at the time, and now they are. It's a massive market that can be serviced. Um, Ended up putting that business down, started another business, which was a precursor to Purepost. Was fortunate enough to raise about $4 million through that experience through venture capital. Um, that business failed, learned a whole lot in that, and was also fortunate enough to walk away with the intellectual property. I was able to buy that from the failing entity, and then I eventually sold that into Purepost, which is what I'm working on today, and I'll definitely elaborate on that. But essentially, what we did is in 2015 we started manually translating every position in the military. There's about 35,000 military positions. Every position in the military is in the private sector. We also crosswalked the military operating structure to the private sector operating structure. And at the end of the day, we created the largest and most accurate skills taxonomy and competency hierarchy in existence. Um, and we built that technology. If you're familiar with the HR, human capital management space, skills-based hiring has been a thing for decades. And lucky for us, it started becoming another point that people wanted to come back to around, I would say, 2018. There's many organizations out there that have gone about doing something similar, but they scrape the web. A third of the web is, false information. 70% of professionals don't articulate themselves accurately on professional profiles or in resume. And a lot of people just don't have the resources to do that. So we built all this data. We took this data, we then normalized it with another massive data set, which goes by ONET. It's an open source network of every proficiency and job in the US economy. And basically, what all that means at the end of the day is we know every skill, every attribute of every professional that would operate in a particular position. And so today we're still servicing veterans. We've made thousands of profiles and resumes for them. Our solution takes about 10 minutes to utilize if you're a job seeker. You get job matches, you get understanding of your skills with definitions, with key actions that one would have taken with those skills, interview prep questions. The idea is we wanted to empower the job seeker with knowledge so they could stand in the future. But on the flip side, we're able to allow any organization to just simply post their job, and we can normalize that to our taxonomy, and then they're going to have matches that are more accurate than they would find elsewhere. What we learned 2 years ago was that we needed to get out that top of funnel space, though, because everybody has skills matching. What nobody has is a solution that actually can be utilized for internal hiring or workforce planning. So today, what we're selling is we have a solution. We can walk into any organization, give us all your jobs, give us all your personnel, we'll put them into the system, and we'll help you to career path them. Or we can, for example, take an organization that is focused on taking veterans who are in wage positions. They want to figure out how to move them to salaried positions. So in a nutshell, we are focused on workforce planning and internal hiring solutions for enterprises, but we can help all organizations.
Thank you for sharing your story and your journey and being so open about it. I really appreciate that. And I know many of our listeners will connect with you through that as well. Your journey sounds like you've been through a lot to get to where you are now and to creating Purepost. How does Purepost bridge the gap between military veterans and the civilian workforce in a way that others haven't?
Well, when we did all those military translations and we crosswalked it to the civilian operating structure, we applied skills to every position in the process of leadership. So the military has more data than any organization going back about 100 years when it comes to performance reviews, job descriptions, as well as all the data that goes with that. When I was in the Army, I wrote a couple of job descriptions, sent them up to the Department of the Army, and they got put into play. I mean, you don't really think anything of it when you're working in the military because everybody's working and doing the same thing and helping each other out. You also conduct quarterly performance reviews and annual performance reviews, and people were also conducting those on myself. So you've got all this rich data of every position in the U.S. military. We just started manually translating all that, but like I said, we measured every skill in the process of leadership, leadership interpersonal, leadership conceptual, and leadership technical.
Mm.
So what this allows us to do is say, well, you have Anthony, who is a captain when he came out of the military. He was managing 90 aviators, medics, and crew chiefs. He had 21 Black Hawk helicopters that equate to about $21 million. He's managing the training. He's managing the maintenance of all that equipment, as well as the medical equipment. And it just so happens that he was working at the direct level his entire career. I'm not going to be suited with all that great experience to work at the in the back office of an enterprise at the strategic level. You want to hire me to work as a line supervisor in manufacturing or distribution where the rubber meets the road because I'm going to be high on technical and high on interpersonal skills.
Mm.
As you move up the structure of the organizational chart with it being a direct, intermediate, and the upper level, uh, your skills then become more higher on conceptual, lower on technical, high on interpersonal. And then when you get to the top, it's going to be extremely low on technical because you're leading large organizations. I don't need to know how to develop code or turn a crank. I need to be very high on strategy. My interpersonal skills are going to be rather high as well. So part of that crosswalk that we did from the military operating structure can position somebody like me in the right position who has a college degree. But if you take somebody who doesn't have a college degree, who's a military intelligence Sergeant E5, they're going to have worked at the conceptual or strategic level, and they're going to be more suited to work at the back office at an enterprise. Just because I got a college degree doesn't mean I'm more qualified than that professional. I'm absolutely not. They've got all the training and the experience, and not to mention, everybody in the military takes an IQ test. It's called an ASVAB. Those professionals score rather high on that. They're the people that you want to hire to be a business analyst as they come out. You want Anthony to be, as I said, a line supervisor working in a warehouse, at some point, senior line manager, maybe a director. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to get that experience through the military. If I would have stayed in the military till I was a lieutenant colonel, which would have been about year 20, I would have had that conceptual and that strategic experience, which could have placed me at the more upper levels of an organization. So what Purepost can do in spades compared to any organization is take the individual and tell you where they map to the opportunities, but also where within the operating structure.
Mm.
In turn, we can do the same thing for an employee at Google or Microsoft. If you if an employee at Microsoft were to build a profile through our system, and let's say they were a director, they would have all of their leadership skills associated with being a director of engineering. So in turn, the way Microsoft or Google or a large enterprise could utilize this is, hey, let me figure out who the appropriate people need to be hired or promoted. Because if you've got maybe a team of engineers, it'd be pretty good to know if one of them was a McDonald's manager at one point, because they're going to have those skills to manage a team of engineers.
Mm. So what inspired you? What got you what kicked in the inspiration to create Purepost? And what problem were you most passionate about solving when you started it?
The problem was completely focused around the veteran and their family. Kind of getting back to it. I mean, I got compressed during COVID, had to get back on my medication, had to start talking to a psychologist, and now I'm compressed again. So I've upped my medication and everything is leveled out. I talk to my VA psychologist every other week. Um, but before that, with that experience at Cornell, I mean, I really did dig a ditch that was impossible to get out of. My mother flew up. She was going to help me disenroll. I managed to talk to my economics professor the day she flew up to explain the situation. And he asked me, well, you haven't been to class in a month. And I was like, yeah, no, I've been just laying in bed. Um, and he had a very real conversation with me. He is an former Israeli officer, military intelligence. So he could talk to me very real the way that soldiers are used to talking to. And he let me know that it was going to be okay because he went through the same thing. And so it all comes back to the service member and just helping people who need to make money at the end of the day. I mean, we're all struggling. Everybody has the war that they're fighting. Uh, Everybody has that battle. And we just want to help people put food on the tables and find meaning and purpose. When you come out of the military, you work part of this massive organization and you know what your meaning and purpose is. When I was in Iraq, I knew that when I was in that helicopter, I was responsible for everybody's lives, and they were responsible for more for my life. Um, and so when I came out of the military, I struggled with finding my purpose, and I was fortunate to find it. And really, I just want to help people stand in the future to figure out what they need to do. And so it really comes down to people. That's what's driven me this entire time. We're a bootstrapped organization this time around with Purepost. I explained that we raised a healthy amount of capital in that last chapter, and we chose to not take capital because we knew that from that experience that capital can put you out of business. In fact, I have turned down capital multiple times. Um, Stopped talking to some investors in Q4 of last year because it just didn't feel right. The alignment, I just didn't feel it. And that was after a month of conversations. And that has happened to me many times during this Purepost journey, which has been from the end of 2017 to where we are today. Now I know exactly what we're selling. I know who we are.
Mhm.
If we take money, they're going to be playing by my rules, and that feels really good to say. And I feel very fortunate to say that because so much of this is just it's luck, it's timing, and a whole bunch of other things coming together. But yeah, I don't know. I've been rambling for a little bit.
No, that's beautiful. And a lot of times on this podcast, we don't go deep into the journey. And I'm really glad that you shared your journey because it's special and I mean that in the most loving way. I know it's been definitely hard, but for you to share it is special, and for you to be open and vulnerable is really is I commend you for that because a lot of people need to hear that. And you've taken the lessons that you've learned from starting another company and taking the 4 million and it not working. And now you're like, okay, I'm going to learn from that and do things differently here. And yes, I'm not opposed to taking money to opening ourselves to that opportunity, but at the same time, I know now what I'm looking for, what I want, and it's going to be on my terms, right?
Oh,
And in knowing your value, knowing your worth, knowing exactly what your mission is and being very clear on that. And you took the time to do that. Had you done this a year ago, you wouldn't have been ready for it. And I think that's really important to share and for people to hear. You don't have to go fast in order to grow. You can take your time and learn and go and really think about what you want and what you don't want, because otherwise you could end up closing sooner thinking you need to be doing these certain things that other companies might do, and it's really not right for you. And to trust your gut and know deep down what you want and what you want to create. And so thank you for sharing all that. And I know there's more that I want to say. It's just not coming out right now. I'm still taking
well,
everything that you
kind of
shared.
keying in on the you said something that I think is important for entrepreneurs is, I mean, it's a marathon. Like if I got out of business school and I got a job out here, and I live in San Francisco. I got a job here and then I quit that in like 8 months and started a business. And at the time, the conventional wisdom was you got to fail as fast as you possibly can,
Mm,
and you got to burn through whatever capital you get as fast as you can. And I still believe in failing fast when it comes to iterating on product and iterating with your team, but I don't believe in failing fast when once you've put the strategy down and you're committed, you have to stick to it.
mhm.
You have to follow your gut too. That is the biggest lesson that I've learned. Every time I went against my gut, things went sideways.
Yeah.
And so now it's like I truly listen to it. If it doesn't feel good, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and you said something about when your mom came to that day, she was traveling in that day, and you talked to your professor. And that's another thing I want to touch on is having those conversations, letting being sharing what you're going through. And I think for leaders, they keep everything in. And honestly, when it comes to team and culture and creating this cohesive unit, your team needs to know that sometimes there's struggles going on, and opening that door up for communication and conversation. It looks different than what you shared, but I was just want to take like leap off of what you
Yeah.
shared because I think it's super important. So whether you're going through something personally, whether you're going through something professionally, keeping it in and trying to navigate that by yourself doesn't work. Lone wolfing it doesn't work. it keeps you stuck longer. And it's not going and allow people the gift of support. I think we don't want to bother anybody or we don't want to burden anybody. And at the end of the day, and this is completely different than what I usually talk about on this podcast, but I think it's really, really important because it's a big piece of business and it's a
Oh,
big
it's
piece of
everything.
growth. It's every, yeah.
People is
Um,
what causes businesses to fail. That's it and that's all. Everybody, we're not a family at my company, but we treat each other very caringly, which means I don't care where you're working. Just turn the double play and make sure the double play is turned when it needs to be turned.
mhm,
It's that simple. And if you can't do the work, don't do the work. If you're sick, you're sick. If you got to take your kid to the doctor, take your kid to the doctor. We'll be okay. The sky is never falling.
yeah.
Because when you treat people that way, we're all gonna, everybody knows how effed up I am. Just the same way that we all know each other's weaknesses within our organization.
Mhm.
Courage is our biggest value. Courage to take feedback, but courage to give it. And if you don't give me the feedback in a timely manner, I'm going to be like, how long did you know that? So we're very, like I said, this is not a family, but you have to communicate and you have to take care of people.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up feedback. Feedback is critical. And if you need to be able to receive it and you need to be able to give it, and you can't be afraid to give it because of fear of how people are going to receive it. They need to be able to receive it as much as they're willing to give it. So a question for you, what have you found to be the biggest challenges that veterans face in employment transitions, and how does your company, your platform address it?
I mean, the initial biggest challenge is like I don't understand what my skills are. And so that was the initial challenge that we had to solve. So when me and my dad started this concept way back in 2015, that's how long we've been working on it. And it's also pretty cool that we're still working with the same people for the most part. And I can talk about teams and it's kind of like a band, that keeps evolving. I asked him, I was like, hey, how can we automate a resume for veterans? He was like, that's not it. We have to extrapolate the skills. We have to educate them on their skills. We have to also extrapolate competencies from every military position. He was like, there's only one way to do this, and it's to build the tech. My father is a retired lieutenant colonel. He's a former organizational effectiveness consultant within the United States Army. He's probably one of 100 people that could, I don't even know if they're still around. I mean, he's 75 years old now, but there's maybe 10 still walking. But there are not that many people who have the skill set that could have done what he did. He went through the organizational effectiveness program in Monterey, California back in 1983. This was a kind of a touchy-feely new age program that the military put into place because the Vietnam War had ended. There was a leadership challenge. Being a soldier, you were ranked lower than being a banker or a lawyer at the time. So the Army was like, we got to fix this. So after he went through that program, we moved to Germany in 1985, and he was focused on reorganizing the corps level in USERA with the idea that would trickle down to the teams within a platoon. A platoon is approximately 60 to 80 people, teams 5 people. After that experience, he became the director of human resources at HEB Grocery. At the time, they were an $8 billion market cap company. He then became the director of dairy operations. He also implemented high performing work teams within HEB. At some point, he got a wild hair and said, hey, I want to go get a PhD. He did that. And while he was doing that, he reorged Harlan Clark Velasquez. He was part of the Malcolm Baldrige award winning team. And so he started a small mid cap business focused on helping mid cap companies in South Texas consulting. And he just started, fast forward to 2015, just manually translating
Hmm.
and then crosswalking the entire operating structure. So I got to paint that picture because it's not like we just pulled this out of thin air. I mean, it took us
Yeah.
years and years to build, but the skills challenge was what we were focused on. It's veterans, we don't understand what our skills are. We don't understand what our competencies are. We had to help them understand that when they come out because most of us don't. I would say that is the initial point, but after that, it's quite honestly more intangible than that. I mean, you heard me talk about earlier about finding purpose and meaning. I was when I got out of the army, I had 1,200 hours in a Black Hawk helicopter. It's like, I was at the top of my game. Like I would equate what we did to the skill level of an elite NBA or NFL team. You know, we were getting mortared and rocketed every day out of there. On average, it was 16 times a day.
Wow.
Um, you know, I got so many stories that will be another podcast for another time. But when you leave that experience at 30 years old, operating at that level, I understand why elite athletes are depressed and why people become alcoholics and sex addicts and all that stuff. And when I came out of the military, I was like, I gotta fill that dopamine void, and I don't know how to do that. I don't have my PTSD is not waking up in nightmares and stuff because it just so happens that the military does a pretty good job of like figuring out the person who needs to be flying a helicopter the same way they figure out the person who needs to be in special forces.
Mm.
I'm all about I will run into a burning building. That is the guy that I am, and those are all the men and women that I served with. And so you leave that line of work, it's like, what am I going to do now? I don't I don't have a master, meaning passion. My time is done. So I was self-medicating heavily with alcohol. I wanted to get when I initially came back from Iraq the last time, I was an instructor of officers, and I was begging them to send me to Afghanistan. And my boss was like, "Hey, look, man, give it a month, please. Like, you don't. I mean, like medevac people, we're the highest op tempo aviators in existence. I don't know any other combat aviator that can come close to us. And I'm obviously a little biased, right? Because we've saved a lot of people and we've been shot out countless of times. We don't have time to plan our mission. We're we're just going. And it was the first time I went and talked to a psychologist was because my sister, we were roommates at the time. Fortunately, she was like, "Hey, I should probably move back to San Antonio and live with my brother." She woke up one morning at 3 in the morning and her brother was drunk. I was drunk underneath the sink because the garbage disposal broke in the new house that I bought and my internet was out and my brand new dryer wasn't working. And she's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like drunk. And she's like, "We need to talk." And so I sat down on the couch and she started crying to me and she was like, "We don't know how to help you."
Mm.
Meaning mom, dad, and her. And she was like, we're scared that you're gonna go off on somebody. We're scared that you're gonna end your life." And so that was the next day I called my boss and said, "I got to go to the doctor." And I went in and started talking to a psychologist. And that was the first time I cried sober. And that's what really told me that I need to think about doing something else. But at the time, that was just a band-aid.
Mm.
I didn't start taking medication. I didn't continue talking to medical professionals. I ended up, like I said, really facing it when I was in business school, and I was fortunate to get a psychologist who knew nothing about PTSD because people didn't really know much about it at the time. And she threw herself at it. And like I said, my mom and all these things came into an alignment. But around 2009, I started kind of feeling a little bit more normal with some help of medication and, talking to a psychologist. And then around 2010, I mean, mind you, I got out of the military in '07. I started feeling like I was capable of maybe being a professional in the private sector because I'm dealing with all this intangible stuff that has nothing to do with understanding my skills or who I am as a professional.
Mm.
I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to walk the earth as a warrior in sheep's clothes. I mean, that's who I am. I still consider I will be the best job I ever had was being a soldier. It'll never get better than that. No matter how much money I make or how much fun I'm having. And there was a lot of pain associated with that, but um, that's the struggle that we're having on the other side of the military. Yeah, we can figure out our skills and all this stuff, but it's how are we going to be able to cope with what we experienced if we had that trauma that we experienced? And then how are we going to be okay operating in this new operating environment? That's the other point. When you join the military, you really drink the Kool-Aid on all those values. And I still live by those values. You go into a business they say that they got these set of values, but 100% of the time they don't operate by those values because it's just a catchphrase to make everybody feel good about themselves. And I could say that confidently about probably every enterprise company out there because they're so massive. And so really that was part of my struggle too. I was like, man, I'm at this great company, but man, people are just hanging out by the coffee cooler all day. Like, that's not what I want to do. I want to get in and out of work, and go back to my family or doing what I need to do. And that's pretty much how all veterans are for the most part. We want to do a job, we want to do it well, we want to feel like we're part of an organization that cares at least about us. And it's very difficult to find that. And so for any veteran out there, you're never going to find that. So you just got to get right with that. I mean, you might get lucky once, but most professionals that have worked in the private sector their entire career have been dealing with that. That's just what it is.
Yeah.
So it's a culture shift to like, okay, I've been institutionalized because I had to be. It's hard to break out of that. And so that is really the struggle and the challenge that comes with it. And I have a whole bunch of other beliefs. One of my beliefs is that the government should just take care of all veterans after their service because I don't know any other profession where you got to do a 12-mile road march every quarter with a 150-pound ruck on your back and your helmet and these boots. I don't know any other profession where I got to wake up at 5 in the morning every day and go do physical fitness. I don't know any other profession where you could get killed immediately from just jumping in a helicopter. I mean, there was a helicopter accident yesterday, and I got a little chippy on LinkedIn, and I was like, yeah, I would never. I would never let my family step into a helicopter, not because the pilot doesn't know their shit or the maintainer hadn't maintained it properly. I just understand how fast everything can go wrong because maybe an engine goes out. Maybe the transmission is not supposed to be operated outside of a certain standard deviation. I was telling a story yesterday that we had a mission, and it was a basic mission from Balad to Ashtraf to go do a patient transfer. And midway through this flight in the evening, the high frequency radio came loose in the tail boom. We could hear it rattling. We turned around. It was land as soon as possible. We tightened on the tail. We, went into maintenance. We pre-flighted another aircraft at 8 at night under flashlight. And then we got a mission at 3 in the morning that was one of the craziest missions that I ever had. I lost one of my crew members on that mission. And all that happened within, 24 hours.
Wow.
So that is what we're doing when we're in the military. Training is dangerous. Training is so dangerous. It's just not walking into the office. And so for those out there, I mean, we need to take care of our service members after they serve, especially if we want to maintain the value of our dollar, although we could laugh and talk about what's going on with that today. And if we want to ensure that people are going to come into the military, because at the end of the day, the only reason why our dollar is what it is because we have the biggest stick. It's that simple.
Yeah. Yeah. I will thank you for all of that. That was amazing and so much insight. And again, really appreciate you sharing your story and your journey, and really taking us there with you and being open about it. Can we talk a little bit about growth? Because you said you and your father, and I love that you and your father we're working on this together. I think that's awesome. And that support system that you have since like 2015. So can you share with us some of the challenges you've experienced in growing Purepost and how you've overcome them?
I would say, well, there's building technology and then there's also growing sales. And so now we're finally at the point where I believe we've got product market fit, and like our future is now just sales and marketing. I mean, we're evolving our product, and our technology it blows everybody's out of the water because we built this data. So as far as challenges go, I would say if you're going to start a business, and I'm coaching one of my good friends from business school now because he's about to take over as the CEO of an organization. If you're going to start a business, you have to make sure everybody is incentivized properly, which means that hey, if I'm gonna found this organization, and then let's just say that there's going to be two co-founders and maybe I've got three or four other people that I can add to that team. I better give them common stock. I need to give them common stock because they need to be vested and have skin in the game, and I don't want them to go anywhere. When I look at all the professionals, and I started doing that from the get-go. Now, if you do that too liberally, your cap table is gonna be all messed up. And so that was part of that problem in my first journey. When we started the second business, we appropriately set aside everything that we need to. Our cap table is the right size as it should be today. And everybody involved today are the right people that need to be involved today. Now, I'll talk about the growth journey of the right people in Purepost from end of 2017 till now. We've gone through so many professionals, and the biggest thing that you need to be ready to do is fire as fast as you can. But you need to be open and honest when you're signing that contract, and you need to tell people this is what you are expected to do. And if you don't do this by, within this time period, it's over.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no conversation about can I get a second chance because there you need to get the best people that you possibly can get immediately. And they may be C players at first. Well, at some point, you need to incentivize those C players, great, because they're helping you move the needle. And then you need to find B players and then A players. And so where we stand today is this is the strongest team that I've had, and we're the smallest that we've ever been.
Wow.
There's like five of us, and we're banging on this every day. We all have picks and shovels. There are no managers. I do not believe in managers. Like if I will never hire an MBA. It's not because I don't believe that they don't have a purpose in large enterprises, but I need people to dig ditches when they come over here. They need to be cold calling. They need to be building code. Everybody on my team is a continuous learner. That is the most important factor, I think, of building a team. Because, and this is the point, we've been building agents, utility agents, AI agents for over a year now, but I didn't really conceptualize and understand that's what we were building. We were just building stuff, utilizing all the stuff that's out there available to build these agents. I had a conversation with a friend last March who said, "Man, you guys need to just go crazy with this, man. Nobody else is doing this." And he works at one of the big, massive tech companies, and so I'm able to hear a little bit about what he's doing. And I'm like, okay. Went back, called up my team. We had a meeting that Wednesday. By the next Monday, we were pushing more AI stuff out. We were building with it. But it was only because these professionals have the initiative and the skill of continuous learning, and they learned it. Like the person who's doing all my AI stuff, by his professional background, he's a human. Uh, uh, he went to Carnegie Mellon to get his master's in human computer interaction. But he can code. He's now doing AI stuff. He's building agents for us. And it just so happens that because we did all that grunt work of building all that data, we're now taking that data and combining it with AI, and we're able to produce awesome results that nobody else can produce and insights. The other thing, and now we're going through this AI journey, is we view AI as a sprinkling or a smattering of assistance. It's not gonna, it's not designed to give you the answer. It's just another smart person that can provide insights to the leadership team to come to that answer. All of our AI is focused on utility agents. You can't just ask it a question. It just performs the function and delivers you the goods. I don't think we'll have a free-flowing AI agent, maybe never. The other thing that I'm learning in this, and I'm also a continuous learner, I know that I'm kind of jumping around here, is, yesterday Google and uh, Facebook announced this new AI thing coming up. I looked at it, I was like, okay, so what? I don't need that. It's like, don't get distracted on stuff that you don't need. You don't need
Yeah.
a Corvette if you just need a moped to drive you down the street. So our AI solutions are a smattering of stuff that maybe came out a year ago, 3.5 here, 2.5 there, maybe Turbo there, Gemini there. I mean, we're not beholden to one AI system. We can turn them off and on. We can swap them in and out. It's all because that engine is just nothing more of an engine, the same way the Blackhawk engine, that GE Blackhawk engine, you could
Mhm.
swap it in with a Rolls-Royce engine. It's the data that we've indexed up here and the data that we built up here, which allows us to produce the results that we can. And it just so happens that it was probably a good thing that we paused AI building because we thought that we were losing, but once we started implementing it, it's like we're putting people out of business that don't even know it yet.
Oh,
I mean, my team of 5 people is doing more than probably a team of 200
yeah,
because they're incentivized properly. And like, I'm not breathing over their shoulder. They do the work when they need to do it and they feel passionate about it.
right. So what does success look like for you in the next 12 months for Purepost?
Success looks like more sales, which, this market's tough, but I know we're going to make more sales. Again, it comes down to I know what I'm selling. I'm no longer selling top of funnel sourcing solutions.
Hmm.
I'm If they want to buy it, I will sell it to them. I'm selling internal hiring and workforce planning solution. That's big blue ocean. Nobody else is floating in that who is actually confidently winning or making strides. I know who my competitors are in that space, and they will be having to do down rounds. They will need to lay off people in order to compete with me and my team of 5 people. We are not going to hire a person until it's incredibly painful to hire that person. Like we need to hire that person. That's how we're going to grow our business. It's like, oh, I can't do anymore. We got to find somebody now.
Right. Awesome. So who is your target market? Can you share for our listeners that are like, oh, maybe I need to reach out and talk to you. Who's your ideal client?
I would say, and this is, yeah, we can serve anybody, but ideally, because I know who I need to go after, it's going to be mid-cap organizations. Um, it doesn't matter if they're technical or service,
Mm,
because it's an internal hiring solution. They need to know what skills their developers have. What skills do their client success people have? We can help everybody that falls into that mid-cap area. Now, why am I going after mid-cap? Because there's less bureaucracy. The sales cycle is shorter. I met with a giant, massive company in December, and she was like, okay, now the conversation has started. It'll probably take about a year and a half. Mid-cap companies, it's like, okay, follow up with this in a month. I will know at the end of this month with an organization that I started a conversation with in Q4 whether or not they're a go or no go.
okay.
So, I mean, that sales, that's like 4 or 5 months right there.
Right.
But for those massive enterprise companies, you can expect a year and a year and a half. So I'm mid-cap company, small organizations. That's what we're looking at. I would say if I were to probably ideally it would probably be software companies right now because those organizations don't understand the leadership skills that their professionals have.
Yeah.
So it'll be easier to like show them the value. It tends to be a little bit higher when it comes to rubber meets the road, follow me type of work, do as I'm doing, thinking more service-based manufacturing. But we can answer the mail for them as well. But yeah, that's what we're focused on, mid-cap companies, internal hiring, workforce planning.
Perfect. So Anthony, how can people reach out to you and connect with you?
They can connect with me, Anthony, at purepost.co. I do LinkedIn, but I don't do social media. It's a distraction and kind of an energy drain. So you can find me on LinkedIn or you can send me a direct email, Anthony at purepost.co.
Perfect. And will have all of Anthony's contact information in the show notes as well for you. Anthony, is there anything that you'd like to share with the listeners that I didn't get to ask you or touch on before we wrap up?
Not that you didn't ask or you didn't touch on, but I would just say, let's just be caring towards one another.
Yeah.
Um, we all believe in this country. I believe in the United States of America more than anything, maybe because of what it's going through now, because the shit wouldn't be flying in some other country. And part of being an American is having a voice and fighting for what you want. And that means, with words and policy and with convincing. But we're all American. We all believe in, the dirt that we live on. Let's just be kind to one another. And remember that when we're at the grocery store, we're all trying to take care of our families.
Mhm.
And we all have more in common than what we would think otherwise. I feel completely confident about that.
Absolutely, and perfectly said. Thank you for stating that and sharing that. For you listening, if you're watching Anthony and I on YouTube, feel free to subscribe to our channel so you get notified when we bring more amazing guests on like Anthony is today, sharing his expertise and his wisdom with you and taking time out of his day. If you're listening to us on your favorite podcast platform, please feel free, if you can, leave us a review, preferably 5 stars. We would appreciate that. It allows us to share our amazing guests like Anthony to more people and get their message and their company and what they do out to more people, and share the information. If you know of somebody that would benefit from Anthony's services, his company, please send them his way. Please share his company, share his information with them. That would be greatly appreciated. We need to be supporting more businesses and more people out there and getting whatever they need in order to more move forward so we can all grow together. Anthony, thank you so much for being here with me today. Thank you all for listening to Anthony and I today. As I shared with you at the beginning, you get a free gift if you need it. Go ahead and grab it. It's our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. It's for those of you who have a business, you're doing the things like Anthony said, he has a blue ocean right now, and that's what you want. But a lot of areas out there in visibility and growing and spending your marketing efforts are a red ocean. You're trying to be seen, you're trying to be heard, you're trying to get in front of your ideal client. And if you feel you're doing it and you're not getting to where you want to go, then go ahead and grab our Spotlight to Scale blueprint. You can go to spotlighttoscale.com/blueprint and grab it. Anthony, thank you again for your time, for your vulnerability, and for opening and sharing with us today. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you.
And thank you for listening to Anthony and I. We will see you on the next episode of the Business Growth Spotlight.